समुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः. Hare Krishna everyone. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11. I remember when I came to Bhakti Center, they were in Canto 4. So it's so happy to see that we are on Canto 11. Canto 11, Chapter 1 and verse 2. Ekopitashu bahu pandusuta sapatnair durdyutahe helana kachagrahanadibhistan kritva nimittamitare tarasametan hatva nripan niraharat pritivaramisha. Translation and purport by the disciples of Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation and because the sons of Pandu were enraged by the numerous offenses of their enemies, such as duplicitous gambling, verbal insults, the seizing of Draupadi's hair, and many other cruel transgressions, the Supreme Lord engaged those Pandavas as the immediate cause to execute his will. On the pretext of the battle of Kurukshetra, Lord Krishna arranged for all the kings who were burdening the earth to assemble with their armies on opposite sides of the battlefield. And when the Lord killed them through the agency of war, the earth was relieved of its burden. Purport. The Pandavas were repeatedly harassed by their enemies such as Duryodhana and Dushasana. As innocent young princes, the Pandavas had no enemy, but Duryodhana was constantly plotting against his helpless cousins. The Pandavas were sent to a house of lac, which were later burned to the ground. They were administered poison, and their chaste wife Draupadi was publicly insulted when her hair was pulled, and an attempt was made to strip her naked. Throughout these dangers, Lord Sri Krishna constantly protected the Pandavas, who were fully surrendered to him and who knew no shelter other than him. In this verse, the word itaretaraha is significant. Previous to the battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna had personally killed many demons, including Putana, Keshi, Aghasura, and Kamsa. Now, Krishna wanted to complete his mission of removing the earth's burden by killing the remaining impious persons. But as stated here, Kritva Nimittam, the Lord did not personally kill, but empowered his devotees Arjuna and the other Pandavas to remove the impious kings. Thus, acting personally and through his immediate expansion Balaram, as well as by empowering his pure devotees such as the Pandavas, Krishna fully displayed the pastimes of the Yuga Avatar by re-establishing religious principles and ridding the world of demons. Although the general purpose of the Kurukshetra battle was to kill the demons, by Krishna's arrangement, some great devotees, such as Bhishma, also appeared to be inimical toward the Lord. But as described in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.9.39, by the words Hatagata Swarupam, many great devotees played with the Lord as enemies, and upon being killed by Krishna, returned immediately to his abode in the spiritual sky in their original spiritual bodies. Because God is absolute, by his killing, he simultaneously removes the demons from the earth and encourages his pure devotees. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsham Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gauram Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for being here, and beg the blessings of Adi Purush Prabhu, Janitai Prabhu, everybody else, so that I could share something in line with the parampara, which is also inspiring to our hearts in our devotion service, and for the pleasure of Sri Radha Malidhar and Gaur Chandra and Srila Prabhupada. So here is the Canto 11. It's the first chapter. Starts with a very unusual pastime, which is always like is a what do you call it? Like these are pastimes. Like sometimes you think, oh no, I don't want to speak on this. No, not others. I feel like sometimes, oh, then there's so much explanations that needs to come through. So you will see the rest of the chapter is going to be on the topic of the fratricidal war between the Yadavas. So I'm pretty sure there are many other speakers who will actually give the reasons why this is happening and how. I did hear that Brahmatirtha Prabhu also touched upon it. I'm sure when the verses come, the other speakers will more enlighten us more about those topics. So pretty much I'm going to stick to the verse that's on hand and the purport. Reading the translation again, because the sons of Pandu were enraged by the numerous offenses of their enemies, such as duplicitous gambling, verbal insults, the seizing of Draupadi's hair, and many other cruel transgressions, the Supreme Lord engaged those Pandavas as the immediate cause to execute his will. On the pretext of the battle of Kurukshetra, Lord Krishna arranged all the kings who were burdening the earth to assemble with their armies on opposite sides of the battlefield. And when the Lord killed them through the agency of war, the earth was relieved of its burden. So here we see a list of offenses actually done to Pandavas and how then the Supreme Lord engaged them as the immediate cause to execute his will. So then naturally the question that comes to mind is, what is Krishna's will? Like, and why would Krishna actually want a war and want to kill people? So it is very difficult to understand the will of the Lord. And that's why when Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. When he says, my birth and activities are all transcendental in nature. Anyone who understands this, the real transcendental nature of his birth and activities, they become liberated. Because a lot of people in this world will reject the accounts of Lord's activities, which are given in the Puranas and Itihasas. as myths. The main reason is that they have difficulty in reconciling God's mercy and the existence of evil and pain in a world that He has created. Such people do not believe in God at all, and they try to improve the world themselves or have doubts about His mercy. They cannot reconcile the presence of evil and God's mercy. Some people who do believe in God and are able to reconcile the existence of evil and His mercy, they reject Puranic stories because they cannot believe that God can personally come on earth. It seems to them that by coming here into this world in a human like form, He will become contaminated by the duality of this world and might lose his and would lose his transcendence. So Janma Karma Chame Divya. So there are some people who don't believe that God can actually take birth in this world. There are other people who would believe, yes, God can come. However, this act, I don't know how to reconcile this. So it may not be transcendental. It is little confusing. So people may have different opinions about the Janma and Karma of Krishna. So those souls, sometimes they accept the Lord comes into this world, are extremely very rare. There are only some people will accept the fact that the Supreme Lord can come into this world, appear. However, they also find it very difficult to accept that the Supreme Lord takes strange forms like half lion and half man, tortoise, fish, boar. So they kind of find it very difficult to accept that the Lord comes in such strange forms. So in her prayers, Queen Kunti notes that when the Lord appears on the stage as an actor, disguised as a character, it's difficult for the audience to recognize him. Sorry, I'm just admitting people. So often people can consider the Leelas of the Supreme Lord to be primitive, and they may consider it as a fiction. So there are people who completely deny the existence of God. There are people who know or accept God exists, but He cannot come to this world. There are other people who they accept God's existence. They think God can come to this world, but not in these strange forms like boar and fish and tortoise. But there are other people who would accept God's presence, His ability to come into this world, and also the multifarious incarnations that He can take. They are willing to accept that. However, when it comes to pastimes of Krishna, they may have a hiccup. Why Krishna did that? Why Krishna did this? It becomes very difficult to accept or understand why would Krishna do this or that. So this pastime of fighting of the Yadavas and Krishna orchestrating it is also one of those pastimes in which people find it very difficult to reconcile. And what to speak of these activities of Krishna leaving his body, or his family fighting amongst each other and leaving their bodies. Okay, I should not have said as Krishna leaving the body, Krishna disappearing from this world, because he did. You will read further in this chapter how Krishna does leave a body, but there is a particular understanding to it. However, when Krishna engages in pastimes in Vrindavan, that's even more difficult for people to understand. People question, like, why did Krishna have dance with so many girls in the middle of the night? Why did Krishna do this? Why did Krishna do that? Because they cannot accept that, especially the Kartik is coming up, when When someone sees that the Supreme Lord is running away from his mother out of fear of being beaten after having stolen butter. So it's a complete uh, paralysis by analysis for a lot of people. How can God be fearful of another person? So when Krishna comes and exhibits his opulence, for a lot of people, that is fine. They can accept Krishna as a king, they can accept Krishna doing various wondrous things, but it becomes very difficult for them to accept the pastimes which is filled with sweetness, in which he forgets that he is omnipotent. So, omnipotent is so omnipotent that he even forgets his omnipotence and becomes fearful. So, when Krishna exhibits such pastimes, it's even more difficult for people. But the sole motivation of Krishna in doing all of these things, appearing multifarious forms, appearing in his original form as Krishna, engaging in the pastimes in Vrindavan, Mathura, Dwaraka, or even engage like arranging these pastimes where the fratricidal war is happening. It's all the motivation is love. Love that is so boundless and conditional that it is so difficult for our imperfect minds to understand his motives. Often, in trying to comprehend Lord's activities, people impose restrictions on his love. How can a loving God could have created a world because there is too much evil here? How can the absolute truth can have a form or interfere with the affairs of the world? Because there are certain kind of people who just believe that God created the world and then it's on its own. He does not interfere at all. So God, some people may believe that God is the person he can love. However, they don't think he can actually forget his omnipotence and become a small baby or a small boy who's afraid of his mother. They don't think it is possible. How can God forget his omnipotence? So God can do everything, but can never forget that he is the Supreme Lord. Some rational people can speak about that. So only those who believe in the infinity of God's love and and his ability to unconditionally love and to know that and know those who know that God's love is boundless, they can only understand the motives of Krishna, because it is extremely difficult to understand the motives of Krishna. Therefore, we need to first serve Krishna's names, then bow before his beautiful deity forms, feel his presence in our lives, and develop some gratitude in our hearts where we could see Krishna's hands in our lives, and in that way feel his presence in our lives. Then we will have some experience and touch of Krishna's love. And in turn, then we will be able to see Krishna's motive to come into this world and perform his pastimes. So usually people think God is unjust. God is either they will think God is unjust or God is not all powerful. That's why there is injustice existing in this world. Or they think God is not all merciful. Why would he let evil be there in this world if he was merciful? And people may think living entities have no free will. So all of these things are not appropriate, because God, Krishna, is just and he is all powerful, he is all merciful, and the living entities does have free will. So to understand that God is just is very hard for a lot of people. So that's when they would question, why would these things happen? Why would there be so many evil people in this world? Why would evil exist in this world? And here in this verse, we see the Pandavas, who are great devotees, are going through so many difficulties in the hands of evil people. And they did not actually lose their faith, thinking, I am such a great devotee. We are such great devotees. We are so committed to Krishna. Why would difficulty after difficulty come to us? And Bhishma Dev, on his deathbed, he answers this question to Yudhishthir Maharaj in Canto 1. He says, Nahi asya karhichit rajan. He says, it is very difficult, Yudhishthir, to understand that why would you, the Pandavas, suffer so much, because it cannot be actually bad karma from the past life. Because you are such pure devotees, it is not because of the bad karma from the past life. And you have Krishna to protect all of you all the time. So despite you being Dharmaraj, Arjuna and Bhima having such skills, and Krishna being your personal protector, why would you suffer so much? He says, who can answer this question? What could be the right answer? That why would the Pandavas, who are such great devotees, suffer so much in life? He says, Nahyasya karhichit rajan puman veda viditsitam. It is very difficult to understand Krishna's plan and Krishna's motives. He says, please don't try to analyze Krishna's plan. Accept Krishna's plan and follow his plan. Then you will actually see where it's all leading up to. So because Yudhishthir does not want to become the king, he denies to become the king. Bhishma Dev convinces him. It's very hard to understand the motives of Krishna. So please follow his plan. Everything will happen perfectly. And naturally, one may question, oh, is that not blind faith? You're just asking me not to question, but to just follow. How would I know if this is Krishna's will? How would I know if this is Krishna's plan? Of course, that's another important topic. Still, how Bhishma Dev handles that? Bhishma Dev says, look at who is there when I'm on my deathbed, about to leave this world. Look who's here. The same very supreme Lord, Krishna, has come here, brought you to me in the pretext of you being unconvinced about becoming the king after this huge Mahabharata war. He has brought you here under the pretext of trying to convince you through me. However, we are all being moved by that Krishna. In your heart, you are unable to accept to become the king because that is Krishna's desire. And he has used you to come here and give me darshan when I am about to leave my body. That is his mercy. I followed his plan to be on the wrong side of the war, to fight against Dharma, against Krishna, against the Pandavas. For the rest of the eternity, I'll be known as someone who fought on the side of adharma. Still, I understood the will of Krishna and followed his will. And today, see who is here. When I am supposed to leave my body, see that very Supreme Lord has personally come to send me off. Why would I question his plan? Because he is the most grateful person. He will actually be grateful for all the services that we render. So I don't question the plan of Krishna, I just follow. And you see the results of it today. My body may be lying on the arrows, but Krishna is here when I'm expected to leave my body. That is Krishna's uh, compassion and mercy. So do not just question the plan of Krishna. Please follow the plan of Krishna. Of course, Yudhishthir and Bhishma, they were on a level where they were directly part of the Krishna's pastimes. So they are on a certain platform. But of course, for all the devotees who are practicing under the instructions of their spiritual masters, the instruction of their spiritual master is directly will of the Supreme Lord. So naturally, this question that why would actually Krishna will in such a way, we see here that he used the Pandavas as the immediate cause to execute his will and on the pretext of the battle of Kurukshetra. So it is not that he wanted to have battle of Kurukshetra, it is just a pretext. But what is that he was trying to achieve? When Arjuna did not wanted to fight the war, why was he why was Krishna speaking the Bhagavad Gita to convince him? Because it is not just about the war, it's not just about the kingdom alone. That's why Krishna was saying, become my instrument because you don't know all my plans. He is someone like, as Brahmatirtha Prabhu was also saying, he is the best multitasker. He can achieve many things by arranging one particular event. So Lord Krishna arranged for all kings who were burdening the earth to assemble with their armies on the opposite sides of the battlefield. And then he killed them through the agency of war. The earth was relieved of its burden. And Prabhu also touched upon the fact that there's so many demons at the time when Krishna was here. So he used the Pandavas and the activities of the Kauravas to arrange for the battle of Kurukshetra, and through that he achieved his mission. So can someone say, then the Kauravas are not at fault? The Kauravas are not at fault because if they had not acted in such ways, how would the battle of Kurukshetra happen? How would the Lord's will to actually unburden this earth would have been achieved? So whatever the Kauravas did, they will not suffer the reactions. Somebody may say that. But the difficulty is, or the reality is, we are responsible for our choices. Krishna can use any of our actions as part of his plan and still execute, come to fulfill his will, that whatever he wanted. However, we are also responsible for the choices that we make. So Kauravas cannot go and claim, okay, we acted in ways because that is how all of the will of Krishna would be executed. Otherwise, how would he actually achieve his plan? We were just assisting in his plan. Why would we be held responsible for our actions? So Krishna is like there is in the chapter 5 of the Bhagavad Gita, it says, Na adatte kasichit papam na chaiva, that I don't actually accept the Na adatte kasichit papama. Krishna says, I do not accept, take responsibility or accept or take on any of the sins of the individuals because they do whatever they do out of their illusion. But Krishna can use our illusion to fulfill his mission. But that does not mean, or that does not discount the fact that we are an illusion and our choices, we are responsible for our choices. And the Kauravas had to pay for the price for their choices. Manye tvam kalam ishanam anadi nidanam vibhum samam charantam sarvatra bhutanam yanmita kalihi. Kunti Devi says, why are all these guys fighting with each other? Bhutanam yanmita kalihi. You just put these conditioned souls with such ego in a room, in the world, they will create their own end. They will just fight amongst each other because of their ego. And you cannot then hold God responsible for all the mess that these people's ego is creating. So we see that in the world in big and small ways. We see that in our lives in big and small ways. We see that in the organization also sometimes in big and small ways. That how egoistic people, when they come together, they just create their own doom. But Krishna is samam charantam sarvatra. He is equal to everyone. He is just leaving it up to the ego of all the conditioned souls. So it's here the same thing is happening. In the war, he orchestrated, he used all of that to achieve his end. But he is not responsible because they were acting out of their personal ego. But the Pandavas were not affected by any sins because they were participating in Krishna's will. They were acting based on Krishna's will and Krishna's plan. So it is a very different reaction for them and the Kauravas. So it is up to us to realize, to understand that how we are responsible for all our actions, for all the choices that we make. Because there was this sadhu in Vrindavan. He was just trying to teach through his, in his last day, in his, when he was about to leave, he was trying to teach that how, what is the right attitude in life. So he was telling that if God, if after death, if people, if I am taken to Emeraj, I will give all reasons why I actually did what I did. I will explain everything to Emeraj, and I'll justify that I could not have acted otherwise in this situation. I had compelling reasons to behave the way I behaved. I will explain everything to Emeraj. I'll tell him how I was wronged, how I was hurt, how I simply responded to the pain that was inflicted on me. Hearing me, Emeraj will move from case to case and ask, why did you do this? Why did you do that? For every particular event, I will explain very clearly that how I could not have acted otherwise, and I would shed tears and create sympathy in the heart of Emeraj. So, episode by episode, I will prove that I could simply not have acted otherwise. So, increasingly reassured by my self righteousness, I will also shed tears and convince him. At the end, everybody will be silent, and Emeraj will ask, "Have you? Are you done?" And when I say yes, then Emeraj will ask, "All this is fine. All this is fine. All your explanations are perfect. I have one last question. If nothing depended on you, if everything was because of others, how they behaved, what kind of, how they wronged you and how they hurt you, how they pained you, if everything was because of others, then why were you so proud?" So, and then the sadhu said, when Yamaraj asks me, I will have nothing to say and have to admit my guilt. So, there is scope to justify our actions by circumstances, upbringing, environmental influences, and pain caused by others. So, what will we be judged for? We won't be judged for the actions, but we will surely be judged for the state of our mind and our attitude towards others and the world when we commit our acts. So we are responsible for the state of mind that we actually breed, and we are responsible for the attitude towards others and the world that we develop. People may have done whatever they do, they want to. We cannot afford to hate, breed hatred in our hearts, because that is going to work against our own bhakti. Our heart becomes very hard. So there is no excuse that because the world is, this is happening, that's happening, so I am right in actually being angry and being resentful and revengeful towards others. No, they are responsible for their actions. We will also be responsible for our own reaction to that action. So our state of mind is very important, and that's what we will be judged for. That's why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, Trinadapi sunichena taroriva sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. He says, who can chant Hare Krishna? Only who develops a state of mind in which one is completely humble, tolerant, offers respects to others, and does not expect respect for oneself. In that state of mind, one can actually chant Hare Krishna continuously. Otherwise, people get stuck with all that injustices, pain, and hurt that was inflicted upon in the course of life. And the heart becomes very hard because Krishna does not stay in a hard heart. So it does not matter how the world is treating. We can externally engage in remedying the situations as depending on the roles that we play in this world, in an organization, in our lives. Whatever responsibility we have, we may do all of that. But it is our responsibility to protect the heart and the mind, keep it in a state which is favorable for bhakti. So there is no point in blaming God or blaming others for our attitude. And that's what the Pandavas showed. Despite all the pain that was inflicted upon them, they remained dependent on Krishna and grateful for everything. That's what Kunti did. That's what Bhishma Dev did. And the Yadavas, they become ungrateful, some of them. And that's what we will see in the further of the chapter, how Krishna deals with that. So thank you. These are some of the thoughts around this particular uh, translation, which speaks about Krishna executing his will using Pandavas as their immediate cause and killing all the inimical kings and who were the burden on this earth through the agency of war. He relieved the earth of its burden. So we don't want to be burden to Krishna because of our attitude. Rather, we want to be like the Pandavas through whom Krishna could execute his will. But to become like that, we have to pay the price. Pandavas paid the price. Despite having gone through all the difficulties, they developed a right attitude. That is the price they paid for to become the immediate instrument to execute his will. Otherwise, others were just burdens. So we could be a burden to our guru. We could be used as an immediate instrument to execute the will of great devotees and Krishna. So for that, our attitude is the most important. Does not mean how the world has treated us, but what's most important is our own attitude. And with that attitude, we'll become qualified either to become an instrument of God or to become a burden on this earth. So thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. If there are any thoughts, any...
Thank you, Gaur Sharan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, do you have any thoughts? Adipurusha Prabhu, Jainitai Prabhu? Yes? Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Wow. You're really challenging us with that point, the last point you made, that we're responsible for our attitude. Terrifically challenging and distasteful things will happen. We were just, reading last night in the Bhagavad Gita, matra sparsas to count in Matra Sparsha to Chutoka to Shukaduka, then the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress will come and go like the winter and summer. This is heat, cold, fame, and infamy. People will laugh at us. People will ignore us. People will hate us. People will misunderstand us. And then it says one must tolerate them without being disturbed. Not that we don't feel the heat or wither under the criticism of others, but we what's not disturbed is our service to Krishna. So when we've got relationship with Guru and he gives us service and we go on with that no matter what, careful that our attitude is not just I'm going to grin and bear this, but actually being grateful even for the most terrific adversity. Thank you, Krishna. Thank you. I don't understand this. This is so, you know, it doesn't seem like it's going to be make my service easy, but I'm going to thank you for this, and I'm going to go on in my service calmly, like that thing Prabhupada says about the kitten is being carried in the mouth of the cat, helplessly. The cat holds the little kitten by the scruff of the neck, and the kitten is being carried helplessly in a direction, but she's confident. My mother knows what to do. My mother is taking care of me. So we have these things going on, and just to be patiently, calmly, joyfully, gratefully, okay, Lord, oh my goodness. I'm always tempted to go, no, Krishna, wait a minute. That's too much. Not that. But, that's what you're preaching about, and it's actually true, and it's a big challenge. But everything is going on in a wonderful way. We can be grateful and persevere in our prescribed duty. That's all. Well, Gaur Prabhupada, Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
We're just
Adipu.
speaking about it and you're living it, Adipushpa.
What?
We're just speaking about it and you're living it.
Believe me, Krishna's throwing everything but the kitchen sink at us.
You are that kitten, and Krishna is holding you by your apron. Loving.
That's funny. A kitchen sink just whizzed by my head. Now he's throwing everything.
Are you grateful?
You know what? If we view these trials and tribulations as what am I learning? What is it that I need to learn? It's hurting for a reason. It's getting me, how many times does Krishna say, do not fear? Like over and over, do not fear. The whole thing is, here I come. Just depend on me. You know, you might not understand, but in the end, you'll understand. Krishna is always saying that, and he does it through trials and tribulations. And he made sure that we understood, as Prabhu was saying, it's really wild when Gaur Sharan speaks, because you have to slow yourself down and take in what he's saying as line by line. And I tell you, I was shaking when I was sitting there before Yamaraj, as Gaur Sharan was saying. Like all of a sudden, it was like I was that guy making up an excuse for all my misbehavior. And what am I going to say to Yamaraj when he says, are you done speaking? You know? So, so we do have to understand that if this purification process is a growth process, growing, the science of self-realization. Remember, that was a huge one that devotees had passed out. It's very accessible and empiric in nature. The science of self-realization was one of the small books Prabhupada most vehemently. We'll talk about this later. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Thank you, Gaur Sharan Prabhu. Darshan time. Let's turn our cameras if possible. Adokshaja Prabhu, good morning.
Vajani Govinda Vedam Vanvantam Aravinda Ganayakasam Bhagavatam Samasti Buddhatundarangam Kanda Kavopi Kamaniya Sesasubhan Go Adipurusham Jai Shri Radha Murlidhar Gaur Chandra Bhagavan Ki Jai Chodha Radha Murlidhar Shri Dev Bhagavan Ki Jai. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can obtain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkening eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates, and by him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. May your fame be spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter at your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Janitai Prabhu. Hare Krishna, welcome back to morning class, to the afterglow part of it. Gaur Sharan Prabhu, you have a few minutes?
Yes, Bhavan. I have a few minutes.
I have a suspicion that Yamaraj, we know Yamaraj is a devotee of Krishna. And I have a suspicion that he's someone like Gaur Sharan Prabhu. He's not a harsh punisher. He's very calm and convinced that Krishna has got our back. Right, Gaur Sharan Prabhu? Is Yamaraj a devotee like you?
He is a better devotee. He is a Mahajana.
Better devotee than Gaur Sharan. Wow. That is very consoling to know.
You know, if you stand in front of Gaur Sharan at the time of death to be judged, you know you're getting by him. You know what I mean? You can be the biggest rascal, and he'll be go on. You can go, you can go on to Krishna. You know, with Yamaraj, he like puts a stop to that. But Gaur Sharan is like the guy who opens the back door to the festival.
Thank you.
Yeah, as Bhima Prabhu is saying, our hope is the mercy of devotees like Prabhupada who have opened the back door, even though I am unqualified. The opportunity is being given to perform devotional service and to soften the heart. So it is devotees like Prabhupada that offer that opportunity without seeing what is our qualification or disqualification, that we have an opportunity to now to even understand these things. It's a very long way to practice them, at least understand these things, that how it's our responsibility to keep our hearts soft.
Thank you, Gaur Sharan Prabhu. Would anyone like
Prabhu's, when I was driving across the country, I was on a long highway, Route 40, through Texas, and Texas is famous for its prisons, etc. But I'm driving down this long highway, and there's nothing, nothing to be seen. Every once in a while, a billboard, and I was having I allow my thoughts to go everywhere, right? Because I'm not guilty for my thoughts. I allow my thoughts to go everywhere, because I'm on a highway forever in the middle of a desert. And then all of a sudden, a billboard, just as I was having one of those disparate flights of fancy, dangerous. Um, saw a billboard sign that said, "Straight ahead to the House of Corrections." House of Corrections straight ahead, right? So obviously there was a prison in the area and there was a House of Corrections. And I was like, the Lord, sometimes he just puts the writing on the wall. You know what I mean? You don't have to explain things to Yamaraj if you read the writing on the wall, and that's what, of course, the Shastra is all about. And of course, the devotees who cast their eyes askance, saying, "Prabhu, don't go there," type of thing. That's why it's so necessary, because we don't want to have to account for ourselves, or not being able to account for ourselves in front of Yamaraj. And the tendency is, of course, with all the eating, chanting, dancing, and feasting, dancing, and chanting that we do, sometimes we forget, get a little bit loose, and we don't understand that, as Adi says, one of the Sankirtan, or maybe it was Prabhupada himself, said, when we get up in the morning to sort of pray, to call out for Krishna, for protection for the day, so to speak, Maya has already done that. She's chanted like 64 rounds before you even, so I'm mostly talking to myself right now, but I think if I say it out loud, I have to own it. So Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Okay.
I had a question, Prabhu. We see at the end of the Kurukshetra war that Yudhisthira was devastated from all the death, the suffering, the widows. Sure, there was much more. The children who won't have fathers. There's very compassionate, very, and you could see he was very, very much feeling his emotions, his feelings. And sometimes this is thought of as, oh, he's not looking at what Krishna's plan is and what he wants him to do. Just go on and be the king and serve Krishna. But is there a deeper meaning to Maharaj Yudhisthira, who's such a dear devotee of Krishna? He's so dharmic. To him, going through this mourning and this deep feeling of guilt, maybe even, I don't know if I can say shame, but
that he was going through, and there's lessons in this for us. I'm just contemplating that right now.
Gaur Sharan Prabhu, would you like to answer this question? Did Maharaj Yudhishthira experience shame?
Oh, is the question, did he experience shame or guilt?
Yeah.
No, the question is, what is there what can we take away? What's the deeper meaning behind him going through this this morning, um, this deep sadness for and really taking, like this extreme level of accountability, when some would just very easily, we could just say, Krishna wanted me to do it, I did it, so it's done. But he was really deeply taking accountability, even when Krishna told them, I want you to do this.
Means I was just reading that section of Bhagavatam earlier, and it's very clearly said there in the purport as well as in the translations that how Krishna as a super soul did not actually want him to be convinced. He was, even like the supreme Lord is omnipotent, and the verse says even though he is omnipotent, still he could not convince Yudhishthir. And Prabhupada writes, as super soul, if he wanted, he could. Now, Yudhishthir would have been convinced, but he specifically did not want Yudhishthir to be so consoled, so that he could be taken to Bhishma Dev and he could hear from the lips of Bhishma and be consoled. And in that way, glorify Bhishma and also be present at the time when Bhishma was passing away. So there are multiple uh, layers. That's why again, Krishna's activities are very difficult, because there will be people in this world who would not want to actually see the inner layers of working of Krishna. They would want to see from a very external perspective that how Bhishma just was fighting on the side of Adharma. And Krishna was there, but he was not there to send off Bhishma. He was just there because he wanted Yudhishthira to be convinced to become a king. And also, if people want to blame Krishna, see, Yudhishthira was so hurt despite all of these. You say he was an instrument of God and he did all these things. Why would he be so unconvinced? And if people want to blame Krishna, or if the people want to hate Krishna using all these things, he gives space for that also. The pastimes, like even one of the explanations for this particular pastime that we are reading, the fratricidal war between the Yadavas, in the Mahabharata Tatparya, like Madhvacharya writes, why are these episodes which are so bewildering and difficult to accept are kept in the scriptures? Like, why are they there? Why does Krishna act in those ways? Because he said Krishna has to give some reasons for the atheist to believe or to continue to be atheist. If they want to doubt Krishna, if they want to actually not be okay with what the way Krishna is doing certain things, they need their space to be. So Krishna is, why did he leave? Apparently show that he is leaving body hit by the arrow of a hunter. There will be people in the world who would like to be atheist and who would quote, you are all worshipping a person who was just like killed by a hunter. How can God be killed by anybody? And he orchestrated that pastime so that those who want to remain bewildered, they could remain bewildered. He also needs to give space in this world for everybody, not just the theists, but also the atheists. If people want to doubt, then Krishna has to give enough reasons for them to doubt. So the idea is, who do we hear? And because Krishna's activities are difficult to understand, we read through the lens of a pure devotee whose eyes are coated with love. We see the pastimes of Krishna through Kunti, through Srila Prabhupada, then we will be able to understand it rightly. If we want to see what can we see? We cannot see our own hands in the darkness. So our eyes is limited by our consciousness. So without love, it's very difficult to see the unbounded love of Krishna. So it's very hard to understand why did this happen or that happen. Easiest way is to see through the lens of a pure devotee, and we are fortunate to have the purpose of Prabhupada. But that does not mean the human struggle that a practicing devotee goes through in trying to understand and reconcile these things. That's not discounted. It is very natural that some things will remain. Oh wow! Like how did that happen? Why did this happen? So we don't need to like sometimes like I'm very sorry if my mood today was like super sober, like kind of like strict or whatever. I don't know how I spoke. The topic was very serious, so I probably remained too serious also. So because it's as Bhima Prabhu said, I'm not speaking for others, I'm speaking for my own self, because I am struggling with how can I not hate people when they do apparently things which does not match with my value system. At the same time, I'm supposed to also uh, in a position sometimes where you have to stand up to them and say, hey, this is not right, this is not right, you cannot do this. How can I do that and I also remain and protect my heart and keep it very soft so that I can advance in bhakti? So it's such a hard thing because it's very natural for me to hate people, it is very natural for me to resent people, it's very natural to be angry at people. So I'm becoming acutely aware of that inability to keep my heart clean and soft and not hold on to that hatred. So I'm like struggling with that. So when I'm speaking, I'm also holding a mirror to up to myself that, okay, whatever is happening in the world, that's fine. You do what you have to do, but you cannot give any reasons or any justification to hold hatred in the heart. So I'm holding a mirror up to myself. So the human struggle that we all go through is not discounted, but where do we take shelter to resolve that struggle? Where do we go to uh, gain understanding? Where do we take shelter? Whose lap are we going to keep our heads and cry?
Thank you, Gaur Sharan
Thank
Prabhu.
you. Thank you, Matrana Prabhu.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if I answered your question. These are my reflections.
yeah, I really appreciate the point too. You're saying of just and from what you're saying, I appreciate many of your points. And from what you're saying, should as devotees in our ISKCON community and our associating with each other, when we see a devotee who may be acting, maybe there's an example I have of a devotee who is like extremely into opulence and one of his and like really diving into a lot of opulence um and he's and his one of his friends said, hey, I think this is a little bit overboard what you're doing, and this devotee got very extremely offended and like ended the relationship. So should we, if somebody comes to us like we see Vidura was going to the Pandavas, he was going and he was speaking, well, not to the Pandavas, he was speaking to Dhritarashtra and giving him counsel. And should we be welcoming counsel if it comes, or and what does it mean if we get offended and we're like, get this person away from me, they're getting into my business.
Means I'll share my thoughts. I'll open it up for others to continue. There are two sides I see. Say when I receive counsel, and it's quite painful. That's why I means for a lot of time in my life, like I stayed away from any counsel because I just could not take anybody's opinion about anything in my life. Like I want to live my life. Why do I care? What do you think about it? But I realized it drove me into deep troubles. So it takes a lot of even when sometimes, like, if the counsel comes through someone's hate, as someone's hatred, someone just hating us, like someone just being angry at us, like I see that also as a counsel in a particular way. And that is very interesting to see. Oh yeah, means I think I'm so wonderful and so lovable, and then here is the person who's showing me the true mirror. This person is able to see something in me that others are not able to see. So everything is a counsel when we are in the right attitude. And it could be hard. We could have people to whom we all need close friends. There is no question if we need or not. We need close friends. We need friendly mentors. We need seniors who are more like, who have more authority and who could just say, and we will be able to just give our lives to those words. So we need all kinds of support system. So when good counsel comes to us, even in unpalatable ways, if we train ourselves to be regularly humble, then even if there is a knee-jerk reaction of just, who the hell are you to say this to me, immediately we can just pull ourselves back. Come on, come on. Okay, hold on. You can't think like that. You're not going to go down that road. You could just pull oneself back and think, okay, what's happening here? Is there a scope for me to improve? Is there any truth to what they're saying? And in that way, we could actually all take it. And when we are in a position to give counsel or correct, my 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 thing is, do I really care for this person? Do I have love for this person? Because sometimes somebody is doing something wrong, all I care is just to show them and to the world how they are wrong and how they are such a rascal and how they are so bad. That's all I actually care. So from that place, it's very hard to do anything. Whatever I do, I will end up creating mess for myself. So can I actually stop and ask, how much do I really care and love? Can I actually say it in a way that will actually help them? Is my real uh, heart is to actually help? Then I'll find ways to actually help them. If I'm not the right person to say, then I'll find the right person that they could hear from, they could listen to actually, so that I can actually help them. It's very hard, and I'm very grateful to you for asking this question, because it's really showing me I was in a particular situation that I've been navigating, and this class actually gave me more answers than I walked in with. But just by speaking with all of you and hearing what you have to say, and the question that you asked just immediately gave the answer in my heart. Do I really care for this person? Do I really actually love? Do I really want to help this person? Because I've been fuming for the last few days at something, and I've been just like, how am I going to just tell this person, like, this is wrong? And I was just like agitated. So just this question that you asked showed me in my heart, like, that, do I really love? Do I really care? Do I really want to help this person? So then I need to find a way to do it in the best possible way for that person to accept it. So I may not be the best person to give the counsel, then I might have to defer to someone else. Hey, this is what is happening. I feel this is the thing. This is what is happening. But you understand, you know this person. Please speak to them, ask them to consider. So I could actually defer to somebody else. I don't need to be the person who speaks to them directly. And then have this thing. I'm telling truth. I don't care. Don't just see how I am telling you. I'm telling you the truth. This is the truth. You take it, it'll be good for you. I can just come from that place and be harsh and then judge, like justify myself as, hey, I'm saying truth, don't just see how I'm saying it. Or I can go to people who could actually say it in a better way and be more qualified to say.
I'm really hearing behind this too, like, sorry, not like, I hate when I say like before a sentence. To be self-aware. And I'm hearing in tune, really in tune with where am I coming from? What's happening for me? Because if we're not self-aware and we try to connect with others in certain ways, it can be destructive, or it can have a beautiful effect if it's like you're saying, I'm really coming um, from the heart, from the caring, compassionate place. And I was just thinking the same thing. I'm contemplating a lot about this. if I'm disconnected from myself, how can I connect with Krishna in a sober way, in a really authentic way?
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for the discussion. Can we take two more very brief reflections, Gaur Sharan Prabhu? Sadhvi and Min.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Sadhvi, Min, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, and thank you very much for today. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. This is it had something I read from very beginning when I learned about Krishna consciousness that has stuck in my head, and I still wonder about it. And that Yudhishthir did everything correctly, so to say. He really had dharmatic way of doing things, being fair, and so on and so on. And even though when Krishna wanted him to be a king, he didn't want before he talked to Bhishma and so on. Still, this is something it has stuck in my head and I don't understand it. What I have learned is Yudhishthir is the spiritual child of Yamaraj. And still when all of the Pandava died and so on, there was a different reason for everyone who they have to go through how they died and so on, why they died in that way. But when it come to Yudhishthira, he didn't die. He went to, but still he went through something that it bothered him, made him so sad, so distraught that he said, I will stay here. And it was the hellish place where when he passed and saw Duryodhana and everybody is in a heavenly planet, and then his family are in hellish planet, and he was distraught. What I don't understand, why did he need to go through that yet? Still, because he was really doing everything right, and still he went through that situation. That this is what I have has stuck in my head. But then later on, as much as I read and attend the classes, this is something it has coming in my head now that there's nothing will happen if it's not Krishna's sanction. If it is not Krishna's plan, Krishna's sanction, nothing will happen. Whatever happened to me, bad, good, pain, cry, whatever happened, is because Krishna have sanctioned it. There is a reason. I may not understand it now, maybe later on, maybe never. I don't know. But there is nothing will happen without Krishna sanction it. And where I have difficulty is love. There I have difficulty. There I have difficult to get it. Or we have different way of love, understanding of love from the way what we think as a human to the what entity and Krishna thinks as love. I don't understand that. Could you please help me? Thank you.
Thank you, Sadhvi.
I'm going to cancel all my appointments. All right, go ahead, Prabhu.
Like, is the question, I'm just like trying to paraphrase, is the question is like, why did the Pandavas or like Yudhishthir go to hell, even the Kauravas went to the heaven in when we read the Mahabharata? Like, why did that happen the way it is explained?
I know it was. I know that he didn't stay there. I know that. I know it was a test. But why? Because he did everything right. He didn't even die, but still he got to go through that. You know what I mean? So I
Mhm.
understand it was kind of test maybe. So maybe we are also testing, going
Mhm.
through test. I don't know.
So
So
what
what
was the question exactly?
are we also going through the same situation as a devotee,
Mhm.
the same situation as Yudhishthira did? I'm not saying that I am in the same level of Yudhishthira. Never. I never will say that. I don't know, maybe 1,000 life after, even though I don't know. But I mean, could this be a kind of test still? What we go through as a devotee, that we are looking, we experience things within the movement, within the Krishna movement. And is it the test to see how we react to it? Thank you.
Whatever, if I'll again paraphrase so that I'm addressing the actual question. So whatever happens in the movement, say for example, as a movement, the Krishna consciousness organization, the movement has gone through a lot of the stuff which is not like nice. And did those things happen because Krishna is like testing us all to actually um, testing us and like wanting us to become better, wants to test our attitude? Is that the question? How do we see those things that happen which is not nice? Like, is that just a test from Krishna? Yeah. So there are two sides. There are two in what I understand, there are surely two sides. Whatever is happening in the world, we are responsible for the attitude that the state of heart that we actually develop. So, and it's not that those people who did whatever they did, they are just acting as Krishna's instruments. That's what again I was saying, how Kauravas cannot claim that because anyway the war is supposed to be fought to assist in Krishna's plan, how can we be responsible for the choices we made? No, we will always be held responsible for the choices that we make, be the abuser or the abused. So the abuser is responsible for the choices they make, and the abused is also responsible for the state of heart that they develop through all of these things. We cannot say the world was hurt me, the world wronged me, people betrayed my trust, so I'll make my heart very hard and bitter. So we can do what is necessary to actually stop the abusers from continuing to abuse power or position or whatever. However, we need to still be responsible for the heart. So yesterday, Brahma Muhurta Prabhu also spoke. When Prabhupada came to know something was wrong, and he actually applauded the devotees who stood against it, who corrected it, and the devotees who tolerated and continued their services. But people who were in authority position and did not say anything, and they were just turning their heads around and not doing anything, Prabhupada asked, why did you not report to me before? And Prabhupada would have corrected the people who actually uh, did something wrong. But did he hate them? If they come back to his shelter and say, sorry, whatever we did is wrong, and please forgive us, do you think he will hold it against them? No. So a pure devotee has developed that unconditional love because they are connected to Krishna, who's the fountain of love. To the extent we are becoming Krishna conscious, to that extent we will be able to reconcile things. Maturity is to reconcile contradictory things in the heart, to be able to correct someone and not to hate them, not to feel egoistically better than them. These are very complex things. And to hold that in the heart needs a very broad consciousness, a very evolved consciousness. So pure devotees are usually, they hold all kinds of people, all kinds of despite like Jesus telling that, oh Lord, please forgive them, or Haridas Thakur saying, Lord, they don't know what they're doing, just please forgive them. It's very hard to come to that level, to be able to hate the sin and not the sinner. It requires a high level of spiritual consciousness, and the more we develop, we'll be able to we will also develop the ability to hold paradoxical truths in our
Could I,
hearts and
could I,
reconcile.
could I please ask how to understand then? I am the supreme the doer, I am the enjoyer, I am the controller, I give the forgiveness, I give the teaching. How to understand that then?
You're saying if Krishna is the ultimate supreme controller, then why
And
is he
doer.
not
He said it
responsible?
himself. He said it himself. He is the supreme doer and he
Mhm.
is the supreme controller and enjoyer. How to understand that then? Thank you.
Yeah. That's a very intelligent question, that how you're connecting it back to Krishna's statements that Bhoktara Mekatapasam, that I am the supreme enjoyer, supreme controller, and the supreme friend of all living entities, and anyone who knows that will achieve peace. Just because Krishna is the supreme controller does not mean we don't have free will or choice. So if does the fact that Krishna is supreme controller say that we don't have free will? So that's why in the beginning of the class also I addressed that some people think God is unjust, some people think God is not merciful, some people think God is not powerful, omnipotent, or they say if these are all true, then the living entities have no free will.
Gaur
But both are
Sharan Prabhu,
yes, Prabhu.
could you relate the metaphor, the analogy that I believe Prabhupada used? You know, you go to the airport
Mm-hmm.
and you have a myriad of destinations.
Mm-hmm.
There is control, perfect control. You
Mm-hmm.
know, hopefully, in the spiritual world there is, and in the material world, vis-a-vis through Krishna, you know, the planes are not going to hit each other. They're going to get to their destination. But the free will is the choice we have which destination. If we buy a ticket for California, we can't decide halfway on that trip that we want to go to Miami, you know. So tie that into the Shastric foundation that you're talking from.
Yeah. So surely our free will cannot be we cannot forsake the responsibility that of the truth that we have the ability to make our choices. And God being supreme controller, as Bhima Prabhu is telling in this particular example, the air control system is running everything. They have flights, they have approved, and they have companies who run that, and they have systems that make sure that the flights are all smoothly running. They have a traffic control system. They maintain all of that, but that does not mean that they have made the choice, where should I fly? I have made the choice, where should I fly to? What is my destination? That does not mean just the government is running all the facilities. They're operating airports and air traffic system and controlling. They don't become responsible for the choice I made to fly to a particular destination. Does that in any way answer your question, Mother Sadhvi?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, dear devotees. Gaur Sharan Prabhu, wonderful class. Thank you for answering all the questions so nicely and shastrically and compassionately. We need a reciter. Adena Krishna's Radharani, are you available to recite the Maha Mantra to complete the offering? Gaur Sharan Prabhu was very, very sobering today, so we need something to lighten it up a little bit. Adena Krishna's Radharani.
I thought I was
Hare
listening to
Hare
Yamaraj
Hare
himself.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. How wonderful is Krishna! Hare Bo,
Thank you
Hare
very much.
Bo.
Hare Krishna.
Sure.
Huge hugs to all of you. I'm so grateful for you all.
Thank you very much.
Like a
Thank you,
voice from
everyone. Hare
heaven.
Krishna.
Yeah,
If an angel had a voice.
yeah. If Yamaraj had a voice, it would have been Gaur Sharan.
Yeah. Like no nonsense. Like you're guilty.
Yeah.
Move along. See, I'm not even getting angry. I'm completely just opening the door for you. Move along, young man.
Hare Krishna. Hare